I'm your host, Doc Rodden, and this is Gruesome Magazine, where we review the very latest in streaming and video on-demand horror movies. Each week, my co-hosts Jeff Mohr, Crystal Cleveland, Dave Dreher, and I will take a look at various spooky, scary, and gory genre offerings. With me this week is my co-host, Jeff Mohr. Jeff, how you doing, bud?
I am doing great.
Yay!
I'm isolated. I'm talking to people.
Goody.
Yeah, woo! All right. Oh, we're giddy. This is what happens when you lock Doc up for a couple weeks in his room. He's gone. All right. Also joining this week is Crystal Cleveland, the living dead girl. Crystal, welcome back. Hey, it's good to have you here. Woohoo!
Oh my God. Yeah, no, it's great to be here. I'm just sitting here, on my sofa counting my money.
I
wish.
One penny.
I wish.
2 pennies.
That'd be awesome. I'm like, anyone got a shotgun?
Wait, there's a dime.
Yeah, I think she's wanting that the
bag.
The bag full of $100 bills.
Yeah, I sure do. I want that.
Even if you have to go to Russia to get it, right? Yeah.
Hey, you know what? Dos Vidanias. Yep.
Very good.
I don't think I said that properly, but that's okay.
No, it's close enough. And yet, that's it. Yes, Dave unfortunately cannot join us this week. He'll be back, and we are going to we're going to have an episode where he just tells us his opinion of all the movies he's missed. Because of this silly stay inside thing that, oh my gosh, this whole world is upside down. All right. We hope you are all at home and safe and healthy and enjoying your horror films on streaming and VOD. What better time to listen to our podcast than when you're stuck at home? I don't know. Where am I going with this? I don't know. Each week we cover 2 films that are on streaming on video demand, or maybe in a horror film festival, or fall into our lap to our review. This week we have another pair that we think you will like. The first film is called Why Don't You Just Die? Who hasn't said that in their lives? I don't know. This is a Russian film. Is this the first Russian film we've covered, Jeff?
I think this is one of the first Russian films I've ever seen in my whole life, honestly.
Well, I've seen...
Well,
at least
There's
one.
a couple.
I think this is the first Russian film.
Yeah. But covering here from Kirill Sokolov, I am not going to be able to pronounce these names correctly, so I apologize. But it's coming out on digital HD April 20th. The second film is Behind You from directors Andrew Mecham and Matthew Whedon, and that's coming out April 17th, 2020.
Yeehaw.
Mm-hmm. All right, the first film up on our docket is Why Don't You Just Die? I love saying that. From director Kirill Sokolov. The cast includes Alexander Kuznetsov, Vitaly Kev, and Evgenia. Oh, that didn't come out right. Evgenia, help. Craig,
I think that was good. Evgenia.
Eugenia. That's probably what I'd say.
All
and
right,
it's Sokolov.
Sokolov,
but it doesn't matter.
Sokolov.
Yeah.
See, I would. They would just put me in a jail cell for verbal abuse here. I'm so sorry that Hey, I can barely speak English. Come on. All right, let's do this. The synopsis goes as follows: Andre, a detective and the world's most horrible father, brings together a terrible group of people in his apartment. His resentful actress daughter, an angry thug, and a cheated cop. Each one of them has a reason to want revenge. All right. Is this a horror film? It is. It might go down as one of the goriest, most violent films we watched this year. Maybe.
Maybe. I think it could get much worse, but it was great.
Yeah. It could get worse. This was done in a very a splatter ballet.
Yeah. A little Kill Bill-ish.
A little. There's a lot of Kill Bill-ish in it. So there's a lot in this film for horror fans to enjoy, and we'll get into all that here as we review. But let's start off with our first impressions. Crystal Cleveland, you're up first. What's your first impression of Why Don't You Just Die?
just generally basic. I did. I really liked this movie. I had no expectations going in, and I don't know what my expectations would have been, but probably not the way this movie turned out. It's a little bit of a wild ride. It's told in kind of a strange way. Mostly everything takes place in an apartment with flashbacks interlaced in this. It's really a vibrant movie, and it's got a lot of yellow overtones, and that's something I don't think we've seen very often. Like typically you get the cold blue tones for horror, but this is really yellow, which almost gives you like a sunny vibe. It's kind of weird, but that's kind of how the whole movie feels. Even though there is some really messed up stuff going on in here and there's some messed up content, it feels a lot lighter. And I think a lot of it is the way that it's shot and the tones that they're using in this. It's a simple concept. It's basically a girl. You find this out relatively soon. A woman starts dating a dude and knows she can manipulate him into killing her father, who she says molested her. And so basically that's the premise of the movie. This guy goes to the dad's house, who is a cop, a detective, actually like a homicide detective, and tries to murk him. And you can imagine what happens from there. And it's just a series of events at that point. And I think the acting was good. I think that there is some things that they did in this film that I really, really, really loved. And a lot of it has to do with the shots. Like they show you it. Yeah, they show you the shot and then the camera pans, or see, I don't know all the shot lingo here. The camera pans or tilts or whatever, and they show you the rest of it. Like there is a scene where he is in a bathtub and you see his head toward the drain, and then it tilts down and you see the drain pipes and everything. It's very cool. There's a lot of slow motion type of things that they do. I mean, I really felt like it was creative and new. It felt like a different concept for me. It was incredibly bloody, which I love. But like I said, it didn't feel heavy. Like sometimes when a movie is really bloody, it's got such a weight to it. But this was much lighter. So yeah, I thought it was fun. I really liked it. I would totally watch it again. And it is subtitled, for people. I know that will turn a lot of people off, but I think it was worth it.
Oh yeah, man. The violence is cartoonish, even though it's graphic and sometimes even still painful to watch. It's very cartoonish and over the top, and it's a blast. And I like what you said about the yellows. I didn't really catch that because the wallpaper is like vibrant green, and then I did realize that the blood kind of had an orangey tint, and I guess that's why, right?
Yeah, it's all yellow. If you look at their skin tones and everything, but it makes the movie feel a lot lighter than what it should feel. Mm-hmm. Cold tones kind of make it feel cold and sterile, and that's really great for a horror movie. It's almost like they went against everything a horror movie would normally be. I loved it. I love that they did that they just said, I'm going to do what I want to do.
Very much.
And you're going to like it.
Yes, it's going to work, and it does. And you're going to learn who the Hatters are by the end of it. We'll get to that. All right, Jeff Mohr, this is going to be exciting. What is your first impression of Why Don't You Just Die?
The Hatters?
We'll get to it.
Okay.
Put a pin in it.
All right. So I loved this movie, and I had no idea what to expect. And it starts off with a very sort of slow tension building scene. And it is a lot like we kind of talked earlier. It's a lot like Tarantino. I texted Doc, and I'm just going to say it now. I felt like the writer-director, Kirill Sokolov.
Sokolov. Mm-hmm. Sokolov.
He's like the Russian love child of Sergio Leone and Quentin Tarantino.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because there's a lot of scenes from this where they intentionally mock, not really mock, but make use of spaghetti western, long shots on the eyes and going back and forth between the eyes, and you actually get some sort of spaghetti western, Ennio Morricone type fanfare music. So I thought that was very cool. And then it's not a linear story, which I think Crystal was talking about. because you start off with this guy at this door. He's knocking on the door. He's got a hammer in his hand behind his back. You got no idea what he's doing there. And then at some point, I think maybe when they're sitting at the table looking back and forth with the father, then it flashes to his connection with the daughter, right? And her. So there's a lot of that. You learn about a character after you get to a certain point. And there's more than one thing going on here, which explains some of the characters' motivations and actions that at the time you're not sure about, but later you go, oh, now that even makes more sense. So as Crystal said, I love the camera work. Yeah, it's sort of, I think it's called like kinetic camera work, but it's like that camera is moving around. It's not like a static point of view. There's a lot of scenes where it's like behind somebody, and before the end of this, as they're falling down, it shifts around to the front of them and all kinds of stuff like that. It's just, I just loved it. And this will sound very strange, but one of the thing that really, I went, okay, this is going to be really good. This is going to sound weird, but when Matvey and Andre, the father, are having the one of their knockdown, drag out fights in the living room, and they like body slam. I don't even remember who did. Slammed them to the floor. You could hear like glassware and stuff on the shelves rattle, which that just seemed like an incredibly detailed touch that I don't remember hearing a lot before. You know how like when you walk through a house sometimes and you can hear stuff wobble or clink together? I just went, this is going to be good. I know that might sound weird, but I just was really impressed with that.
Yeah, there's a lot of great Foley work. That's what it's called, right? Foley work?
Yeah. Yep.
All kinds of, from gun clicks to all kinds, refrigerator doors. Handcuffs.
And I know how to pick a handcuff now, I think. Anyway.
Oh, yes.
And the music. There was this kind of repetitive sort of, I don't know what you want to call it, little ditty that was playing over and over through the beginning. At some point I was thinking, I'm going to get tired of that if there's no more music. But at some point, I think there was more music, but it worked really well. And they used different forms of it, different instruments, different volumes, that kind of stuff, different pitches, but it was still the same little riff that just fit perfectly with what was going on as I'm sitting there trying to figure out why are these people?
Yeah, it became Matvey's theme song.
Yeah. And there basically is 5. There's a couple more people, but there's basically 5 characters in this movie, and eventually they all end up in the apartment.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't want to go too much farther, but I thought the acting was really good too. And I don't know if everybody's like this, but do most Russian males have broken noses? I mean,
yes, yeah.
Both the guy that played Matvey and Andre looked like they had a decipher.
Yes, because hockey and all that sort of stuff. Yes,
I suppose.
Yeah, they fight a lot. Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but they were great. I thought they were great, and the mother who is a very I don't want to say meek, but downtrodden and abused woman. I thought she was great. She was great. Anyway,
she always had that expression on her face. Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah, so I'm glad you mentioned the music. So we'll take the pin out of the Hatters. That music you're talking about is from a Russian band called the Hatters. And a couple of their songs are in the credits, including the last song you hear.
The ones that are in English, right? The English songs?
Well, it is in English, but it's Russian and English together. But they are a Russian band, and there's a song called "Fuck You" at the end of it, and it is.
Well, it actually plays earlier too.
Yeah, and it is marvelous.
Yeah.
And so my son watched the movie with me because I said, "You gotta." I watched it twice, and I said, "You have to watch this." So he watched it with me again. Or I watched it again. He watched it with me that time, and he loved it. He absolutely loved this film, and he immediately said, "I need the trailer so I can send it all to my friends." And we spent probably 20 minutes looking up the Hatters, finding out who they were in the first place, and then looking them up and watching some videos of them. I recommend you do that. Look up the Hatters and watch some videos, and especially the live concerts. They are kind of amazing. There's one guy, the guy that has the bass has the most amazingly oversized bass guitar. and they play a lot of string instruments, not guitars, like violins, and they have horns. They're about as Russian as you could think you could get from a very American point of view, right? Anyway, so look up the Hatters. That's why I was mentioning the Hatters earlier.
Okay,
I'm glad you mentioned that because yes, I loved the soundtrack for this. One of the soundtrack is a very Tarantino song. I need to look it up, but I think it's either the same song or very similar, as in from the same artist that he used in Kill Bill.
Oh wow, cool.
It felt that way. I'm not sure. I want to look into it further, but at the very least, it has that same feel. Speaking to that, yes, I adored this movie. I loved it. It's going to be in my top 10 for the year. I'll just throw that out there right now.
Yay.
I love this movie. I want to go buy it. I love this movie. This is the most amazing thing I've seen. It's so much fun. It's so violent, and it sucks you in. You love these characters, even though they're all despicable characters. But that's
are all of them though? I don't.
Yes,
I don't think the lead character is despicable at all.
Oh,
he's precious. Poor guy.
No, Matev. He's a gangster. But he wants to do well. I mean, our lead wants to do well.
He was trying to do the right thing. Yeah,
but he's a murderer. He's a killer. But he
Well, he went there.
But he thought the guy was a pedophile. He thought that I think that's warranted. I think that's a vigilante.
Well, he learned how to. Well, anyway.
Yeah. You mean he knows how to pick locks? So he must be a criminal. You know how to pick locks now, though, too, don't you?
I'm
just messing with you.
Was it like Russian YouTube? I don't know. Maybe it was. I don't know.
Actually, anyway, I thought that was so cool.
Yes, it was. These actors are amazing. The cop, Andre, right? He is the most gangster, corrupt cop. From his appearance, I mean, he looks like somebody. He looks like a bulldog on two legs.
He reminded me of the way Kingpin was drawn back in the '70s, short, stocky. I just was not a guy I wanted to get hit by.
Oh no, he looked like he would.
Like hams.
He was imposing, and he had, like you said, he had the broken nose. Our Matvey, however you say his name, our lead. He has the a very similar broken nose. It looks like the cartilage from the end of the nose to the bone is just gone. Who knows where it is? It's in his back pocket or something. But he it gives him a very distinct look. It's kind of a bottle film, right? Isn't that what you call it when it's all basically in one location? It does venture out, when the flashbacks, but once he gets in the room, everybody else comes into the room. And it's a lot of dialogue, but not lengthy dialogue. And this is what I loved. The dialogue was so to the point.
Yep.
Our lead actually says very little and almost emotes everything through facial expressions. And he has the best facial expressions ever. I could watch him just react to stuff. And to be honest, the good portion of the latter half of the second act, that's literally what we're doing. He's on the couch. Right. He's stuck on the couch, and he doesn't say a word. Everything he has to say is, through his reactions, and they are precious. They are hilarious. The best one is when the computer monitor, TV screen, whatever it was, it looks like an old TV thing was thrown at his face, and when he realizes, there's nothing.
That shot was so cool.
Yeah, wasn't it? Because there's there's nothing I can do. It's gonna hit me. It was just a great look. This is, like we said, it is Warner Brothers cartoon violence. Straight out of Tom and Jerry, straight out of Wile E. Coyote. Right? We always kind of say it is, and it is so wonderful. It is kinetic. It's full of energy. To me, it's interesting. I liked your combination. I definitely got the Tarantino vibe because of the way the dialogue and the characters and the structure of the story was, right? But it's kind of mixed with Sam Raimi, and because there's all these
shots,
there's all these very creative shots, and it does have that Italian spaghetti western style where you get the close up on the expressions in the face and everything extended. But man, does it here it's used so wonderfully well because it brings out tension and doubt. There's one time when something that our lead character is he believes through most of the film, and it brings doubt to it, and you see it all in his face, right? It's just held there until his face just gives up. Oh, well, it's not what I thought it was. I'll end this with this. If you ever want to see somebody go through a wall butt first, this is your film.
Yes.
The most amazing. First, it's the most amazing wallpapers since The Shining. And two.
Yes, I had that thought too.
Yeah, and two, his butt goes right through the wall. How that ever happens, it's totally preposterous, but go for it, man. Yeah, and the characters are motivated in really interesting ways. It's really all about greed, and kind of neat in that way. So, yeah, my first impression is awesome. Awesome. But let's talk about the gore, because a lot of blood flies. Right, Crystal? There's a lot of blood in this film.
There is a lot of blood flies. And flies.
Blood flies. Hey, look, there's a blood fly. There's a blood fly. No.
But, I mean, actually, there's... See, when you talk about this, it sounds like it's going to be such a dark film, but it's not. But there's torture. And there's blood flies. There's betrayal. There is... there's cocaine. There's cut up bodies. Damn. There's there's a lot of blood. There's a lot of blood. If this was, this could be really dark. That's what I'm saying. They could have gone so many different ways with this film, but they made a comedy out of.
Well, let's put it this way, because we compare it to Tarantino, right? So if you go back to Reservoir Dogs, and you do the ear cutting scene, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That was not presented in a way that was, Wile E. Coyote.
Right, of course.
It's still entertaining, but it's a little bit more excruciating, right? A little bit more, right? In here, you don't get an ear cut, but you do get...
you get a whole cut-up body?
You do.
Whole cut-up body. A head chopped off. You get a drill to the knee.
Okay, so the drill is what I was talking about.
Yeah.
I was going to put the equivalent to the drill, but the drill is done in such an over-the-top way that it's not quite funny, but but it's kind of like, oh my God, and you're it's entirely different reaction, even though we're saying the styles are the same. So that's but there is a lot of blood. I mean, people just get the crap beat out of them.
Andre is drenched in blood.
Andre, he comes out, his white shirt is now red. And that's for the rest of the movie. And poor Matvey, there's a reason why this film is why don't you just die? In a couple different ways.
Yes.
Like the flashback when he was a kid.
Oh my God. I was dying. I was like, this is hilarious. Come on. Yeah. Are you serious? It's so funny. And it's ridiculous. Obviously the movie is, but I think it was told really well. And I think actually, like I said, for such a simple story, it had a lot going on. Betrayal, like I said, and underhandedness, and oof.
Well, yeah. And the acting is really amazing. And the guy that plays Andre, Vitaly Kev, he was amazing. Really, really strong performance. His acting, when he's speaking to a character, he talks to each character differently without losing his own character. So, for example, when he's having any conversation with Matvey, right? But when he's talking to his wife, Tasha, in the kitchen, it's a different type of tone, a different type of confrontation. When he's talking to his daughter, Ola, again, it's very different. And how do you pronounce Yevgenich?
Yevgenich, yeah.
Yevgenich, when his partner, his police partner, and his friend since high school, or grade school, we find out, right? It's different again. And I don't know if I didn't really notice that until the second time I watched it, but man, he does a fantastic job, because he gets kind of put on the spot from each of these characters, and he reacts to each one.
It's based on his level of respect. He has no respect for his wife at all.
But I agree with that. But at the same time, he doesn't raise his voice to her.
Yeah, well,
it's a different tone.
Yeah, he's like, shut up, basically.
Well, how dumb are you? How dumb are you?
Yeah, how dumb are you? Yeah.
He's not nice, but he doesn't. He never really raises. But it's I just found it interesting. What did you think, Jeff, of the acting?
Oh, I thought it was great.
Anybody stand out?
The two main ones are obviously the standouts, I think. Alexander Kurtznesov and Vitaly Cave is Mate and Andre. I think they're just incredible. And I agree with what you said about the actor that plays Matvey.
Yes.
He's got these looks on his face and he doesn't have a lot of dialogue. Boy, I don't know how to explain it, but just you always know what's going on in his head.
Mm-hmm.
You know, is he trying to figure something out? Is he feeling like, oh, I'm screwed? Is he thinking of something new? I love the scene where they're sitting on the couch after they've had this knockdown drag out. And they're sort of like taking a breath.
Yes.
And he looks over at the shotgun, and the other guy goes, no, no, no. And he goes, yeah, yeah, yeah. I just thought that was great. I love that scene. Yeah, I thought they were good. And I did like the woman that played Natasha, Elena Shevchenko. She had a personality, yet she was very cowed by Andre, which you would be if you lived very long with that guy.
Like she's been hardened. You know, and she doesn't.
Well, you never know when he's gonna, you know. Although I don't think we ever saw him raise a hand to her. Everything he was trying to remember, verbally abusive.
No,
yeah. Well, he definitely talked down to her, and Oila, his daughter, you know, mentioned later that they spent her youth avoiding his drunken fits. Yeah. So you get the impression he could be. Maybe not.
You're right.
Yeah, not in the story.
He's not drunk when we see him.
No, not at all. Although vodka is involved.
It is.
And cocaine. There's cocaine. Mm-hmm. Yep. Do you remember that? Not them. Exactly.
Yeah, but that's in the flashbacks, right?
Yeah. I'm just saying that's part of it.
Yep.
It's part of the movie. So, yeah, there's a lot of badness in this.
It's grimy, but it also, all these characters feel poor, right? They're definitely the lower class, even the police officers, right?
Mm-hmm.
You see it in the apartment that they live in. You see it like even when he's in the elevator at in the beginning and then at the end, you see, it's got graffiti all in it and stuff like that. So you never. Even when you get the flashbacks, you feel this lifestyle that they're living in, and many of us might be able to relate to it.
I do have a question, but it has a spoiler, so I don't want to say it until we decide on spoilers. But
go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. So what was he gonna? I mean, okay. So he took his friend's money. Was he ever going to give it back or something? I don't understand. It seems like he almost was going to give it back, because he didn't. It doesn't seem like he spent any of it, right?
No, he was greedy. He was greedy.
Okay.
It was all that was the whole motivation was his greed, because she.
Okay.
And we can leave this in. He basically the greed that he had with that money, is really the motivating thing for even his daughter.
Well, I knew that. Well, of course, for that made sense. But I just don't. I guess I don't understand why he wasn't spending the money. It confused me. And then he told his friend, "Well, you're better off. I was trying to help you."
Yeah, he's bullshitting him. Yeah.
Okay, I just wasn't sure if
he had a gun pointing. He had a gun pointing him at the time, so he was he was just trying to take him off the ledge, even though it was in a very demeaning way. He's kind of mean. But it's very interesting, yeah. So everybody's actions are slightly, they're motivated by a lot of different things. I'm not really sure what motivated the wife, but it's more of the effect on her, which is at times.
Well, there is kind of an odd thing that happens there where they talk about she goes away to the country.
Yeah, she's definitely spends a lot of time away, and we might know why. Yeah, there might not have been, love lost in this situation, because there's a point when the daughter notices something. Because everybody spends time at a table or on the couch talking to each other at some point. but it's usually not a long time, and the dialogue's pretty quick and snappy. So,
well, and a lot of times there's tension behind
Yeah.
it. You know, like you were saying, if somebody's got a gun on them, or the opening scene where Matvey and Andre are sitting at the table, and it is interesting.
Yeah, because we're only privy to 3 rooms, right? We are the living room,
Right,
the kitchen, the bedroom, and the bathroom are the only rooms we see. If there are other rooms, we don't get to see them. And it's really weird. Like the front door has like that padding on it, like a
Yes.
to me it looked like
it's a pole.
yeah, like a bar, right? A bar door.
Yeah.
Dive,
Maybe it's a Russian.
It might be. I don't know. That was one of the.
It could be soundproofing. If it's a cheap
It could
type
could
thing.
be.
Anyway,
Could be because it definitely was
That makes sense.
a lot of sound going on.
And that makes sense as to why there was a call, but that was it. I mean, because come on, there was a lot of noise.
Yep. Yes, there was a lot of noise. What else stood out for you? We talked about, and you can dive into any of these topics again if you want. The acting, the gore. We talked about the camera work. Is there anything else, or do you want to touch on any other element of the film that stood out for you, Crystal?
Let's see. I'm thinking about that. No, I think we discussed most of it.
Yeah, because we talked about a lot of the shots, and I think one of the shots that I brought up is worth repeating is when the TV gets thrown at him. And
oh my God,
we get this what?
So,
yeah.
And from behind.
Yes.
I love how it's from behind. Honestly, when I saw that shot, it like stopped me in my tracks. I was just staring at the TV. I was like, "Is he going to move?" Because it was so slow.
Right.
Maybe, but no, you could tell. Like you said, he was like, "Whatever."
but they showed a lot of the shots are tight shots on individuals. But then when Andre gets ready to throw that, then they pan back and you see the full.
Yes, that's right.
The full length and what he's doing, and it has that much more impact, I think. But yeah, the slow motion, it was excellent.
So cool. I know. I mean, there's just a lot of cool stuff that they've done with this.
Yeah, a lot of it's a comedy of errors, right?
Yeah. To say the least. Oh God. I mean.
So I want to know, Crystal, did you gasp? Did you laugh? What was your reaction as you're watching this? Were you just grinning from ear to ear? What kind of emotional ties did you have to this? Reactions?
So most of the time I was cringing.
Yeah.
Not because I didn't like it, just because I was like, and I was like, I got a little mad at some of the characters. Not our lead.
Yeah.
I loved him. Also, I felt a lot of empathy for him because I know you said he's a bad guy. I don't know. I didn't see him as a bad guy at all. I felt like he was just trying to do the right thing and got caught up with the wrong girl.
He was doing it for love.
Well,
yeah, and I mean, come on, like if he really believed that happened, I feel like he was doing it for the right reasons too, because
and he's a cop, so you can't go to the cops.
Right. See, and there's so much to it that I was like, well, this poor dude. I mean,
yeah, but he stuck through it.
Maybe
he stuck through it. He stuck to his guns, didn't he?
What I found interesting too is, and what makes him admirable to me is, I don't think he took the money.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, which is so fascinating to me. It's like,
Because everybody else was greedy. I'm not sure about the wife, although she knew about everything because
but she would go along with it regardless. She was in no control of her life. She just she was just a follower more than anything, I think.
Because when Andre was spilling all the I was going to say spilling the guts, and that's both verbally and literally to Yevonich, her reaction was priceless, where she's like, no, don't say it, don't do it, stop. It's like, she was dreading, this reveal. Which is interesting because you think it's just a very simple, this guy's going to go kill this guy, but every turn reveals another element of the story, and it just digs deeper and deeper. And I thought it was clever in that way.
Yeah, I like the way the story was laid out. It was done in such a way that it made it more interesting. It was like, so I'm watching it and I'm going, well, what? I'd be thinking, there's something else going on here. What's going on? And then about the time I'd be getting frustrated, they'd reveal. And it worked great for me anyway.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Yeah, there's a couple times they fake you out.
There's a phone call where he calls his daughter, and that faked me out a little bit. It made me wonder.
Yep. And then there's this is how I think it's going to play out.
Oh,
fake.
right.
Which was like, I was like, what? And then, yeah. So this is a great film. So let's we're going to ramble on if we don't stop this. So let's do that. Let's give our final thoughts, our score, and oh my God, I can't wait. Favorite scene for Why Don't You Just Die? Crystal, start us off.
Okay, so obviously I like this movie. I think you should watch it. Subtitles are something you got to get over. I don't have a problem with them, although I think Dave would even like this movie, the subtitles. But I'm going to give it a 4. And my favorite scene, and I know I mentioned it, but I don't care. It just it made me so cringy. Oh, the tongue in the drain. The tongue. I felt it. I felt it. It was like,
yeah.
Well, no, I just could not with that.
Especially since they showed you the horizontal cutout view of the drain.
And from below, and oh my God,
that was the nastiest thing. Blech. Yeah,
let's just put it. It was not a clean drain.
No.
Oh my God,
gnarly.
All right, that isn't the scene I thought you would pick.
Oh, I know,
but it's still awesome. Still awesome. All right.
Really, the reality is, almost the whole movie could be a favorite scene. It's that good. Like, I think everything is worthy in its own. You know.
Jeff, sir, what about you? What is your final thoughts? Your score, favorite scene? Why don't you just die?
Well, this is one of those films that just everything fits well together. I mean, everything, the music, the camera work, the acting, the cinematography, the colors, the special effects, the everything, the way that story is told. I just enjoyed the heck out of it. And I really do believe, I'm glad you said Sam Raimi, but I was the whole time I was watching this, I was thinking Sergio Leone, I was thinking Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and Pulp Fiction. Score, 4.5. I got to go 4.5. Because I'm like, I don't know what to say. Well, I'm going to take the scene that Doc mentioned where we get a flashback of when he was a kid.
No, nice.
And nice. When we see the present day counterpart to that scene is like, holy shit, no wonder.
Yep. 17 minutes. and it's such a great shot too. He's on the floor, he comes up into focus, and then it freezes. And that's when I think when you started talking about it being yellow toned, that's the scene that came to mind immediately because you really feel it there.
Well, and just quickly, Crystal said something about the blood being almost. Did you say almost orange or almost?
That's what Doc said. Yeah, it has a yellow, an orange tint. Yeah,
it was either that or it was dark black.
It was very dark. Yeah, because there was a scene where the blood's dripping off something, and it's like almost black. And I thought, now that I thought was cool.
Dark blood.
Yes. All right. Well, I love this film. It pushed all the right buttons. Don't worry that it is subtitled. Even if you didn't read this film, you probably still enjoy it. It's pretty straightforward. Although there is a lot of subtext and context in the dialogue. The dialogue is actually quite interesting. How they talk to each other and try to get information out of each other, or even better for me is how the lead doesn't say anything and says everything with his eyes and puppy dog eyes and that grin of his. Amazingly expressive faces on the entire cast, and each one is different. Even the daughter who gets the least. Well, her and I guess maybe she doesn't get the least. Maybe that's the friend cop. But there's a scene toward the end when she's very still, but yet it says so much. It's amazing from all around. This film really won me over. I want to give it a 5.
Oh, wow.
I want to, but I think I'm going to pull back and just say it's 4.75. But I want to give it a 5.
Well, then you
I really want to, but
you guys think too hard.
I think, but let's just say that I eagerly watched this a second time, not just because I wanted to keep fresh. I wanted to see this a second time, and I'm ready to watch it a third time. This is a fun film. It's lively, it's energetic, it's chaotic, and it's funny, and it's gory, and entertaining as hell. I recommend it wholeheartedly. And my favorite scene, I could pick about 1,000 from the drill to the TV thing to all kinds of stuff. But I'm going to pick. At some point, our lead is basically couch. He's stuck to the couch, but there's all kinds of other things going on, and there's a turn of events where our the cop, the father, is being confronted by another character, and the reaction our lead Medved has is amazing. It is priceless. It is. He was so happy.
He was delighted, wasn't he?
And oh my gosh! And the way he was looking around, just looking back and forth. And so they have a close up of it. They have a far away shot of it, and he's still doing the looking from one guy to the next. Normally when this basically you have a standoff, right? You have a standoff. Yes. Both characters are pointing a gun at you, just waiting for who's going to shoot. And usually you're like chewing on your nails, right? Oh no, the wife is, right? We literally see her. She's chewing on her nail, not literally, but that kind of action. But he is just grinning ear to ear, and he's because he's got an out. There's a guy standing here that's got him an out, and he's like, "Oh, this is gonna work." That whole scene with the four of them in that room, and the camera work where it zooms in and pulls back out, and you see these shots. They're rapid, but they're not MTV rapid, right? And there's even though the camera
you can always tell what's going on, right?
Yeah. It's the choreography is fantastic, but it also because the camera does follow our characters around, kind of like that James Wan style. Sometimes, like when somebody gets thrown to the floor, the camera goes with them. There's some stuff like that, but it never feels in the way, right? It just feels like that's how it works here, and. So there's a tone, there's a vibe that this film has, and the camera work is a big part of it. It's just, like I said, it pushed all the right buttons for me. Yeah, let's give it a 5. I love this film.
There you go.
All right, Why Don't You Just Die is available nationwide come April 20th. By the time you're listening to this, it should be out there. All right, coming April 17th is Behind You from directors Andrew Mecham and Matthew Whedon. The cast includes Addie Miller, Elizabeth Berkner, and Jan Broberg. The synopsis is as follows. 2 young sisters find that all the mirrors in their estranged aunt's house are covered or hidden. When one of them happens upon a mirror in the basement, she unknowingly releases a malicious demon. And that pretty much sums up this film pretty good. That pretty much puts it right where it's supposed to be. So let's find out how well it did. What is our first impressions? So, Jeff, you're up first. What was your first impression of Behind You?
I think it's well acted, and it was well shot, I believe. I like the premise of the story and the sort of spirit, demon, whatever that occupies the house. And some of the early scenes gave me chills, even though I knew what was coming, right? The title of the movie is Behind You. So,
yeah.
Even though I knew that, it got to me a couple times, right? But the characters do too many dumb things. I just had a hard time buying it. So these girls, their mother has died, I believe, and a friend delivers them to her aunt. And she knows that they haven't seen an aunt for a long time. And one of the girls has a peanut allergy and doesn't bother to tell her, which would be like the first thing you tell them, I think. That the sister doesn't even think to tell them that, the older sister. And then this is a small part to give away, when the younger girl, Claire, is going into anaphylactic shock from eating something with peanuts in it, the older sister, Olivia, asks the guy who made the food, she doesn't say, are there peanuts in it? She says, what's in it? And he has to go through a long list of ingredients before he gets to peanuts. I mean, give me a break. So anyway, and then there's a bunch of other stuff like that where I just am like, what?
And so on, and so on, and so on.
So that was my biggest issue with it. You know, I kind of like the story, but it wouldn't have took too much to tweak the characters' actions to make it all make more sense, I think. That was my biggest issue. The acting, I thought the acting was good. And you find out, you know, you find some things out about some of the characters that you didn't know at the beginning, which I think makes sense. So yeah, that's where I'm at. Clunky.
Sounds like. All right, let's find out what the rest of the crew think. Crystal, you're up next. What is your first impression of Behind You?
So I completely agree with Jeff. It's shot well. I think the acting is good. I think the kids do a great job, and the adults as well. I think the home, the environment, everything is spot on. And I really like the concept of the monster or creature or ghost or demon. That's really what it should be. Demon that they have in this movie. Although she looks a little bit like the Ring girl in a way. But I kind of like it. It's kind of like a Mary thing, you know, it's the demon that comes from the mirrors, which is fine, whatever. But I completely agree with him. It's the writing, specifically more so for me toward the end. I honestly think that the movie should have ended like 30 minutes before it did. There was one part where they used those allergies that Jeff talked about and kind of overcome, and then they just continued the movie and continued it. And it was very strange to me. You know, it's the writing that hurts this film. Everything else is good. Like I said, I think it could have been really great. But yeah, I agree that there were some issues in where they decided to go with the story. I even like that they came into the present and had this aunt and then her old boyfriend that saw what happened when they were kids. I enjoyed that aspect of it. But yeah, it's the writing that kept this movie from being great. Or even, I still think it was okay. But I'm not kidding. That extra, 20 minutes or whatever, I was like, this is unnecessary. And I didn't like it. It would have ended better had they not tacked. It's weird that they tacked it on. It didn't need it. It just needed to just end. I was very confused. But yeah.
Do you mean when the door shuts by itself?
Yeah, I mean, didn't you that? Yeah, without giving too much away, I just think it could have ended where it did. And then they even could have just had something like that, like, ooh, you know, because like they do on most of those horror movies where they give a little idea that it's still around, and that's it. Not this whole other, no. They went a little far.
Yeah, but I think they were leading up to that. That was really where they wanted to go. That was the point of everything, which is, yeah, maybe it's just like clumsy.
Yeah.
May have been. For me, my first impression is not too far off. I thought the acting was fine. I didn't really recognize Addie Miller as Olivia. She's grown up, yeah. But she's really good. Both the sisters are good. The aunt is she's creepy. She's creepy.
Yeah. And
then the boyfriend was the old boyfriend was pretty precious. I liked them. I don't have problems with the characters. Having said that, the problem with this film is very much similar to how they handle the Aunt Beth. And it's very wishy-washy, right? Because she's very gruff and, unfriendly to her nieces. And then at one point she becomes friendly to them and helps them, and then turns again and then turns again and then turns one more time. And the film, unfortunately, is similar in that. At least I felt that way, is that I really couldn't keep an idea. Whatever the tone of the film was, I couldn't keep focused on it. I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
It felt oddly uneven in a way that I'm struggling to express, which the result is that it became a little dull because there were points when I would lose interest. And then it would catch my interest again, and then I'd lose interest again. I'd be curious just to really dive into it and watch it again to find out if, hindsight being what it is, I'd like to follow that up and see, okay, what triggered that? Because it's not poorly made. Technically, it looks great. It's it's atmospheric. I have problems with the demon. It was a little cliche. It doesn't really break any new grounds. They don't do anything really interesting with it. I'm just going to say they don't do anything really interesting. It's a little cliche.
Like I said, she looked like Samara from The Ring to me.
Yeah,
still, the white face, long hair.
Yeah, and it just you can do that, but you gotta bend it a certain way. You got to make it unique. And I don't think I won't remember that character, right? Most films that we adore over time, there's that scene, right? There's that dialogue, that scene that you always stick to, and this doesn't really capture that much or very well. It's and I feel like I'm hammering it a little too hard, but unfortunately, like you guys, I don't think what would you say it was clunky? Clunky is a good word for this. It is clunky.
I didn't buy the actors' decisions and actions.
The characters. The characters, not the actors.
The characters, you're right.
Think about this. Like, the most ridiculous aspect of this movie to me was they're thinking their aunt is trying to murder them. They get out of the house and go to the car, and then the oldest sister goes back into the house for a stuffed bunny. Are you kidding me? Are you alone? Alone. Okay, totally. I was just like, that is ridiculous. That's just not even. It's just not even a choice anyone would make. I mean, it's just so. There's a lot of poor choices in the writing, and it's things that I feel like could have been overcome had they just done things differently. I think it could have worked had they made better choices.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for the bunny, they did make a point to suggest that it was that important to Claire, right? Because, but I don't.
More important than her life. Come on.
Well, no. I don't. I'm not suggesting. I'm not suggesting I buy it, but I'm suggesting that they made the effort. It just didn't play out correctly.
Right.
Let me tell you this: if my child, which I have children, he used a stuffed toy to talk through, that's great, fine, whatever, dude. But if he left that in someone's house that I thought was going to kill him, I'd be like, Stu-Fu, we're getting out of here. You can get your bunny later. And I would deal with him over dealing with, it's just insane. Right. It's not even in the realm of reality. Yeah,
they just managed a miraculous escape, and then she's going to go back in there alone.
Yeah, and then the house was like, they weren't anywhere to be seen. I'm like, this is,
it became a plot device. Right?
That's the moment they lost me.
Exactly right. It was a plot device that did not justify itself.
Yeah,
well enough.
It's too bad.
But what do you think? Well, let's talk about the acting. Crystal, you said you liked Charles, the old boyfriend, played by Philip Brody. We'll start there and work our way to the girls, the young sisters. What did you think of him?
I thought he was cool. I mean, he seemed very natural. He seemed like he was really trying with the girls, which I appreciated at first. I was like, okay. At first I was like, is he a creeper? And then you're like, no, he's fine.
It did come across kind of a creeper when he was out in the garden, didn't he?
Yeah. I was like, no, he's fine. I think all the actors did a fantastic job. I think the girls did really well. I mean, they were pretty much, everyone had a big role. And I think that other than the caregiver, who clearly should never be a caregiver of anything, maybe an insect. I'm serious. Oh God.
Well, I think that was the point. That was why she was like, I can't take care of these kids.
So bad. I was like,
how'd they fall in my lap?
But yeah, I mean, that's where the good comes in. The good comes in as far as, the cinematography, the overall feel of the movie, the acting. They had a lot of good elements. And even though like you said, the creature is cliche, I still think it would have been a successful movie had they made better choices with their characters, with their intentions and with what they were going to do. A lot of it was unnecessary. And like Jeff said, what would have been better is to have the caregiver come, drop off the kids, tell the aunt that she's allergic to peanut, but not Charles, right? Because he made the food, and then have her eat it and be like, oh my God. See, there you go. It was said.
That's a good point. I'd buy that the aunt forgot that.
Yeah, but they got around it that way. So why wasn't that done? I don't know. Poor choices. Sorry, poor choices.
Poor choices.
Yeah.
Because I thought Jan Broberg did a good job as Beth, the aunt.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, she was excellent. Actually, she scared me.
She was intimidating when she from the get-go, when she comes down the stairs, from her introduction to
I like the relationship
turn.
Between the Aunt Beth and Charles.
Yes,
me too.
It seemed a little odd at first, but later on, that's explained, and that was justified. That
me
made
too.
sense.
See, I'm totally with you. Yep, I agree. That part I had no issue with. Actually, it explained completely as to why he's supporting her through all this, because he's thankful, and rightfully so. It's such an interesting thing. It's just those few things that could have been hammered out. I'm telling you, I could have come up with ways to get around this, but they just didn't.
Well, hindsight's 20/20. But
unless you're a writer and you're going to make a movie fail because of that, like you can't think like that as a writer. No. You've got to know like where people are going to go and like hammer out your cracks. Look, I can forgive a lot of cracks. I could forgive some of this stuff, but there's a lot of it. Don't you agree, Doc? Wouldn't you agree with some of this? It's like a few things I'll be like, I let it go. But at a point it's like, no. When she went back in for that bunny, that's when they lost me.
If at any time it takes you out of the film to think about it, or to complain about it out loud, it's something that should have been ironed out at some point.
Well, I was getting mad.
Me too. Well, okay, I wasn't that mad, but I was like, you have.
No, at the beginning, I was like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
You have.
All right, so Elizabeth Berkner plays young Claire, the young sister. I'm trying to say,
and cute.
Yeah. Now, I thought her character and her motivations all made sense. She is very emotionally distraught, losing her mother, and wants her mother back. And this mirror is promising her mother back. So her decisions make sense, even though.
I don't have a problem with that.
Right.
She's a kid.
Right. And I think even if she was older and still with that distraught emotional fact, that it would have made sense even if she was an adult. But I think it works, and I thought she did a great job being scared and being in the air quotes possessed state as well. She was creepy in the car when you were talking about when she's in the car and they're making the getaway. You're like, this is not going to work out as you think. Good luck with this. Something bad's going on. So I commend her. I thought she did a great job. Now, Addie Miller is the lead, Olivia. Like I said, I did not recognize her, but I thought she did a tremendous job. She was a great lead for this, I thought.
Agreed. I have no problem with any. I have no problem with any of the acting. I think they did an excellent job portraying their characters with what they were given. Really, truly, my only issue was character choices. And I think the actors did as well as they could with what they dealt with. And I think the setting was amazing. That house was awesome. It was a perfect home for this.
It was a great set. If they built sets, they were fantastic. If they set up a house inside, it worked out really well. It worked. It worked.
I loved how the house wasn't updated at all. It was like still stuck in that, like, but it should have been, because, she was I didn't even, of course, realize until Charles was talking that, she had been in prison for years or not in prison, but in
Institutionalized.
Psychiatric. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
see, that was good too. No problem there.
Yep. They could have taken her quirkiness even further. Yeah. And it still would have worked. I didn't really struggle with anything, her motivations. I do agree with the two big ones that you guys are pointing out. You know, they go back and get the bunny and go, you know, the whole allergic to peanuts and peanut butter thing. Because it was so in your face that this is a plot point, right? Okay. Remember this, it's going to come back later. Which is fine. But like you said, it was a little clunky. What troubled me more was how Beth, the character, you know, would switch sides, and it wasn't
so quickly.
Yeah, so quickly and so often. The first time when she softened and then, you know, became friendly with them, okay, that makes sense. And then, yeah, it happened a couple more times, right? And that just, you know, it's like, well, what are you trying to say? Which way, you know? And it lost any investment I had in her character as far as the story goes. I still appreciate her acting and what was going on, but I didn't really care about her character anymore, right?
Ooh.
And that hurt. No, it hurt, right? I was probably more upset about Charles than anything that, yeah.
So I'll tell you this, even sometimes certain things in horror movies that are just outright really would bother me, like the writing on the mirror. That would have really bothered, because I'm like, it's a little in your face. However, it didn't bother me in this. So I don't know how they pulled that off without me being really annoyed by it, but it was fine. So the fact that I accepted that says a lot, because it's just so in your face. You know, writing on a mirror, it's like, okay.
Well, it could have been because it was with a child.
Maybe it was just it just worked for me for some reason. I was like, well, I guess this is the only way you're going to get it. And I also, when the bunny is, the quote unquote bunny is talking to her, the fact that they didn't just do stop, but they actually had to like spell it out for you, where it's like, take the key, pull it to the side. If I think about it, it's kind of funny. Instead of just, it would have been obvious to us even if we hadn't heard the exact words, you know, we didn't have to have that. We didn't need it spelled out. It could have just been blah, 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 you know, creepy like that. But that was okay too. Okay. I was like, whatever, you know, I'll accept that, but I will not accept the allergy thing or the bunny. Nope.
Not going to do it.
No.
All right. Well, let's wrap it up there. Let's give our final thoughts, our score, favorite scene for Behind You. Jeff, you're up first, sir.
I did not particularly like this. I don't know that I could recommend it. I'm giving this a 2.
A 2?
Some of those motivations, they were so glaring that it just, like I said, I got angry about it. Favorite scene, I will say, when Charles gets it.
No, Charles.
I did feel bad about that too. Yeah, but
and even then, there was something in there that bothered me. But I thought it was, you know, he was an upstanding guy.
Yeah,
and was trying to make up for things with Beth, and I'm going with that.
He was an upstanding guy. I think that's why we liked him, right? He was a good character.
Yeah.
All right. Crystal, you're up next. What is your final thoughts? Your score, favorite scene for Behind You? Behind You.
I mean, I'll say this: if it's on streaming, yeah, give it a watch. It's okay. It's just going to frustrate you somewhat, and if you're okay with that, just watch it. I mean, I thought it was okay. It just upset me, yeah, at a few points, but overall, you know, 2.5 for me. My favorite scene. Oh boy. I guess my favorite scene is when the younger sister comes after the older sister with the knife. She just like charges at her. And I don't know, I thought that was great. The two girls working together to kill each other or whatever. No, the little one trying to kill her. I think she did a good job. The younger girl did a great job. She was sufficiently scary looking to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I'm not going to say anything terribly much different than you guys, although I think I liked it slightly better. I think your remark about it being a perfect streaming film are perfectly fine. streaming film. I've certainly, and this is a backhanded compliment, so I apologize in advance, but I've certainly watched and been invested in far worse films on streaming.
Oh, yeah.
It is really well made. The acting is solid. It's a bit clunky. I think that when you said that, that really hit home for me, Jeff. It is a clunky kind of, the story's a bit clunky. If you can, the more you can give that a pass, the more you're going to enjoy it. The ghost or the demon, it doesn't break any new grounds. It's not something, I don't think you're going to be amazed or wowed by it, but at the same time, I think you could be entertained by it. It is a solid effort in the technicality of it. You're right, and how technical, in the technical aspects of it. Everything this side of the screenplay. I think that's really where I think all three of us are agreeing it's the screenplay that kind of gets it a little bumpy. I certainly think that these directors have something in them, and they just need to learn the trade. I feel like we're bashing the film, but I think that these directors are going to come up with something really sweet in the next few years. I wouldn't be surprised if they're making those theatrical films that we talk about coming out in January and February that surprise us, right? You think they're going to be duds, and oh wow, that was really good. There's a path that others similar to them that have talent can that I can envision them following. They're probably shooting darts at me at the moment, but anyway, I'm just going to end there. That if this lands in front of you, give it a shot. You'll know soon enough if you want to keep watching it. I'm giving it a 2.75, just barely more than you, Crystal, just barely. My favorite scene, you may have taken it, both of you. So I'm going to go with the opening scene, which I thought set the tone pretty good. And that's the flashback when the aunt and Charles are young, and I believe it's their younger sister they're watching, I believe.
Well, it's her younger sister.
Yeah. And there's another sister that's involved too, but she's not in this particular scene. And the other sister is actually the mother that of the two girls. But the youngest sister ends up going and is told to go to her bedroom. They've just been reading a scary book, and she goes in there, and creepy things start happening. And they see her down the hallway just standing in her room, but you can see through the open door, seeing her there. Knowing that something's going on and having to go down that creepy hallway to it, just like, ooh, no, what's going to happen? And I thought they handled the surprise pull that, that the whoops, we're going to take the girl away thing really well. And it established everything, the stakes, what's happening, without going too far into it and giving anything away, right? And I thought it set it up, and it actually gave me some hope that we were, this movie is going to deliver at that point. So I'm going to go with that.
Cool.
All right, that's our review for Behind You. It's going to come out April 17th, 2020.
Yeehaw.
All right, that's it. We reviewed 2 films tonight. Why Don't You Just Die, a Russian film from Kirill Sokolov, right?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
All right, coming out April 20th, and we just finished Behind You from Andrew Mecham and Matthew Whedon, coming out April 17th. For me, I think it's no surprise that Why Don't You Just Die is the winner for tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely can't wait. It's going to be very difficult for me not to talk about that film at the end of the year. That was
fun.
Yes.
I don't know if you remember when we reviewed Revenge, right? And how that little film, which was just kind of came out of nowhere and really won me over. And this did too. Not in the same exact way as far as the film goes, because Revenge is a far different film.
So serious, yeah.
But it what I'm trying to impress is just how the impact it had on me. I didn't know about this film, and now I can't wait to tell everybody else about the film, and that just thrills me to no end.
Yay!
All right, Jeff, Crystal, thank you for joining me tonight.
You're welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Always fun.
Always fun. Join us next week for 2 more. Do that if you want to reach out to us and give us your comments. If you've seen either of these films, want to let us know what you thought, or if you want to suggest other films or have any thoughts whatsoever you want to tell us to piss off, go ahead, Andrew. Go ahead, Matthew. Write us in. I joke. I just don't. Please don't. You could do for feedback at gruesomemagazine.com is the way to email us. Go to Facebook and join our Facebook group, or you can go to gruesomemagazine.com and leave your thoughts on the show notes. Any way you want to do it, we want to hear from you. Woo!
Woo!
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
All right.
Yeehaw.
Yeah.
I don't know why I keep doing that.
You got to give it a little bit more. You're from Texas. Come on. Give it a little.
Yeehaw!
There you go. There you go. Yep. Boots and all on that one. All right. Let's say goodnight.
Good night.
Good night.
All right. Go look up the Hatters. Do it now.